As principal of John F. Kennedy Middle School, it is my honor and privilege to welcome you all here to our National Junior Honor Society induction ceremony. This evening, our chapter members and advisors will welcome 44 8th grade students into John F. Kennedy Middle School's Evian Simkovich chapter of the National Junior Honor Society. I would like to welcome Mrs. Tangari to the podium to lead us all in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
To begin this evening's ceremony, on behalf of myself, our chapter advisors, Mrs. Lynette Keene and Mrs. Maria Rotolo, and our faculty council, I would like to acknowledge the Board of Education members that have come here to participate in our dramatization of the standard of purpose associated with membership in our very own chapter of the National Junior Honor Society. The following Board of Education members are here with us this evening to show their support and congratulations to each of our students being inducted tonight. Mr. Vincent Grady, Mrs. Tina LeBlanc. I would also like to recognize our school superintendent, Dr. Jeffrey Schuman, and Mr. Christopher Drezick, our Deputy Superintendent of Schools. I thank you all for joining us here this evening. Candidates, in accordance with the National Junior Honor Society Constitution, a special induction ceremony that is both appropriate and impressive must occur for your confirmation as official members of the National Junior Honor Society. Although this event is not to appear elitist, but rather inclusive, you are of a select few individuals who have met the standard of excellence necessary to gain membership in our chapter, the Evian Simkovich chapter of the National Junior Honor Society. Since the first middle school charter was granted in 1930 to Clarinda Middle School in Indiana, close to 10,000 chapters of the National Junior Honor Society have been chartered throughout the United States. Each induction ceremony is unique to the traditions and rituals that reflect an individual chapter's desire. Our presentation of candidates this evening is what we in Enfield believe to be both appropriate and impressive for our middle-level students. Although ceremonies may look very different, the standards for each candidate's induction must remain consistent. I express my congratulations to each of you for meeting the following criteria as set forth in the National Junior Honor Society Constitution. Scholarship. Each candidate has a minimum grade point average of B or higher. Leadership. Each candidate is a leader in the classroom, at work, or in other school community activities. Service. Each candidate's actions are done with or on behalf of others without any direct financial or material compensation. Citizenship. Each candidate understands the importance of civic involvement, respects the laws that protect government, and demonstrates mature participation and responsibility in school and community endeavors. Character. Each candidate must demonstrate trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship. Each of you before us have demonstrated these unique and fundamental qualities necessary for acceptance into the National Junior Honor Society. I congratulate each of you on the habits of mind and aspects of character that have brought you here this evening. Several years ago, I was inducted into the University of Connecticut's Beta Sigma chapter of Pi Lambda Theta, their selective honor society for educators. Additionally, I became a member of Phi Delta Kappa, a professional educators association that focuses on the tenets of service, research, and leadership. Alike all membership in honor societies and associations, please view your membership in the National Junior Honor Society as a beginning. It is my hope that you will further the ideals of scholarship, leadership, service, citizenship, and character as you progress through the Enfield Public Schools and beyond. See yourselves as the model citizens you are now being recognized as, and go on to continuously give back to your local communities. In my research into the Enfield teacher whose name our chapter bears, Mrs. Evian Simkovich, I have learned that she too furthered the ideals of scholarship, leadership, service, citizenship, and character throughout her life. Although Mrs. Simkovich is no longer with us, she continues to give back to a community that she cared so much about. In addition to this chapter which bears her name, and through the estate of her husband, the students of John F. Kennedy Middle School are now afforded the opportunity to be able to participate in a talented and gifted program that is made possible through the legacy that Evian Simkovich and her family have left behind. Candidates, you too have begun your own legacies. As I mentioned before, let this be only the beginning. It is my hope that you will continue on the path that you have already chosen, and that you will take full advantage of the qualities you have demonstrated that have led you to this induction into our chapter of the National Junior Honor Society. Choose to lead and make those of us who are here tonight proud of the decision we have made to accept you into the National Junior Honor Society. Parents and guardians, I must congratulate you too, for you have raised your children into the fine young ladies and gentlemen that they have become. Be proud of your children, but also be proud of yourselves. Teachers who are here tonight, I applaud you as well. You have touched the life of a student, which is why they asked you to join them here this evening. As we have often heard, to teach is to touch lives forever. Parents and teachers, may you always recognize the contributions you have made to the legacies that these individuals will surely leave behind. Prior to our formal candle lighting ceremony, I would like to ask Mrs. Jairus Griffin and Mrs. Sharon Gorman to please come forward. You are not in trouble. As stated in the National Junior Honor Society Constitution, the Faculty Council shall reserve the right to award honorary membership to school officials, principals, teachers, National Junior Honor Society advisors, adults, and students with disabilities in recognition of achievement and/or outstanding service rendered to the school in keeping with the purposes of National Junior Honor Society. Now are you getting the idea as to why you're here? Okay. This evening, our chapter would like to award this honorary membership to both Mrs. Jairus Griffin and Mrs. Sharon Gorman for the commitment that they have made to promoting the qualities of membership that our candidates will shortly hear and learn about through the lighting of the candle ceremony. Mrs. Griffin and Mrs. Gorman, congratulations and thank you both for the many years of service to our school's chapter and now your honorary inductions into the National Junior Honor Society. Congratulations. Congratulations. And now I'm going to ask that Ms. Donna Maseko come forward to begin our lighting of the candle ceremony by acknowledging the first quality that our membership requires, scholarship. Mrs. Maseko?
Scholarship means a commitment to learning and academic excellence. These students invest a lot of their time and effort into their schoolwork. They are building excellent study habits and are becoming lifelong learners. Knowledge casts a light that helps us understand the past and also illuminates the path that helps lead to the future. Candidates are challenged to continually expand their world and their outlook through a continuing focus on scholarship. Ms. Kimberly Jakes, our music teacher and member of the Faculty Council, will now light the service candle for us and explain the service aspect of membership in the National Junior Honor Society.
Willingness to work for the benefit of those in need without monetary compensation or without recognition is the quality of service we sought in our membership. We are committed to the idea of volunteering our time and abilities to the creation of a better tomorrow. We believe in the importance of giving back. Ms. Sarah Brown, a music teacher and member of the Faculty Council, will now light the leadership candle for us and explain the leadership aspect of membership in the National Junior Honor Society.
A goal of leadership is to exert a positive influence on the school and community. In taking the initiative in class and school activities, the leader not only motivates others to attain the same objective, but is also a role model in the process. The price of leadership is sacrifice, the willingness to yield one's personal interests for the interests of others. A leader has self-confidence and will go forward when others hesitate. Each of these students has demonstrated a particular kind of leadership and is charged with continuing to show this leadership in our school and community. Mrs. Sharon Gorman, the Social Studies Department Chairperson, a member of the Faculty Council, a former chapter advisor, will now light the character candle for us and explain the character aspect of membership in the National Junior Honor Society.
We are known by our character. It defines us as individuals and makes us unique. Character is revealed every day through our words, our actions, and our choices. Each of these students has demonstrated through their reliability, honesty, and treatment of others that they value character and seek to model it every day. Mrs. Jairus Griffin, the English Department Chairperson and former chapter advisor, will now light the citizenship candle for us and explain the citizenship aspect of the membership of the National Junior Honor Society.
Citizenship is vital to the strength of our country. Like many of the qualities we have spoken of, citizenship requires effort and commitment. In the words of the late President John F. Kennedy, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. Each of these students has shown a willingness to participate as responsible citizens in our community. I would like now to introduce Mrs. Maria Rutolo, a math teacher and a chapter advisor for our school's National Junior Honor Society.
I pledge of the National Junior Honor Society, to which I have been selected. I will be true to the principles for which it stands, and will maintain and encourage high standards of scholarship, service, leadership, citizenship, and character. Good evening. Didn't they do a great job? And now I would like to introduce Mrs. Lynette Keene for the signing of our book.
Good evening. We will now proceed with the signing of the book. As I call each inductee's name, you will come forward, sign your name, then proceed to Mr. Van Tassel to receive your pin and certificate. You will then receive a white rose from Mrs. Kopeksa. Your teacher guest, whose name I will also call, will join you down in the front, and you will give this rose to your guest. Let us begin. Ashley Amabeng, and her teacher guest, Mrs. Lombardo. Jacob Audet, and his teacher guest, Mr. Power. Angelique Vizier, and her teacher guest, Mr. Snyder. Emma Blinn, and her teacher guest, Ms. Nalbandian. Caitlin Chappell, and her teacher guest, Mr. Nucio. Monica Cherubin, and her teacher guest, Mrs. LaJoy. Claire Collins, and her teacher guest, Mrs. Song. Matthew Coppinger, and his teacher guest, Ms. Sikorowitz. Colin DeBarber, and his teacher guest, Mr. Clark. Jocelyn DeGray, and her teacher guest, Mrs. Ellis. Ashley Egley, and her teacher guest, Mr. Wynnum. Cheyenne Ellis, and her teacher guest, Mrs. Griffin. Jessica Folo, and her teacher guest, Mrs. Rabel. David Hamilton, and his teacher guest, Mr. Nucio. James Hanna, and his teacher guest, Mrs. Rutolo. Alex Jensen, and his teacher guest, Mrs. Gorman. Curtis Gallagher, and his teacher guest, Mr. Delaney. Chase Copen, and his teacher guest, Mrs. Ellis. Brianna Keenan, and her teacher guest, Ms. Champion. Regina LeBlanc, and her teacher guest, Mrs. Nadeau. Miranda Lee, and her teacher guest, Mr. Clark. Erica Lovering, and her teacher guest, Mr. Wasilewski. Jessica Mayer, and her teacher guest, Ms. Nalbandian. Emily Malcolm, her teacher guest, Mr. Delaney. Andrew Misek, and his teacher guest, Mrs. Gorman. Carolyn Messenger, her teacher guest, Mrs. Hargraves. Taylor Oates, her teacher guest, Mrs. Puddick. Joseph Partridge and his teacher guest, Mr. Delaney. Mary Kate Pestana and her teacher guest, Mrs. Baling. Ryan Radzowitz and his teacher guest, Mr. Wasilewski. Kristen Raffia, her teacher guest, Mrs. Dunham. Justin Rankin and his teacher guest, Mrs. Baling. Taylor Reedy, who is unable to be with us this evening due to a death in the family. Grace Roy and her teacher guest, Mr. Power. Jessica Sackett and her teacher guest, Mrs. Dickinson. Alexander Salisbury and his teacher guest, Mr. Delaney. Ethan Shea and his teacher guest, Mr. Winham. Allison Smolensky, and her teacher guest, Mrs. Palmatier. Madison Stone, and her teacher guest, Mrs. Gorman. Paige Tetro, and her teacher guest, Mrs. Hargraves. Spencer Walker, and his teacher guest, Mrs. Ellis. Veronica Walker, and her teacher guest, Mr. Delaney. Hannah Yoram, and her teacher guest, Mrs. Zenzik. Damian Zaharis, and his teacher guest, Mr. Power. That concludes our signing of the book, and I will turn this back over to Mr. Van Tassel. Thank you.
Now this is when the celebration actually begins. So one more round of applause for our inductees tonight. So much to feel good about tonight. Well, we're not going to end the night right now. What we're going to ask everybody to do is we're going to go to the school library. So if you're going to go out, you're going to take a right out into the hub, and then you're going to take your first left, actually your second left, which is the administrative wing. We have light refreshments set up in the library for a reception. We do want you all to come. So with that being said, I hope you all enjoyed this evening, a very special evening. Congratulations once again to our inductees, and I look forward to seeing you all in the reception.
You might
row of chairs, so I'm sorry if I'm walking in anybody's.
That is a great picture. Great picture.
Can I borrow your shoulder? Thank you.
Alex, hold your side up a little bit more. Perfect.
Oh yeah, I do this every year, huh guys? All right, my girls that are sitting in those chairs, sit up tall, scoot to the front of your chair. Boys, down lower on your feet. But hold the sign down just a little lower so we can see you. Boys, with the bow ties, hold your sign lower at that side. There you go. Right there, perfect. Don't move, we're gonna take 3, okay? 1, 2, 3. Smile. 1, 2, 3. Carolyn, smile. Wait 1 second while the flash recharges. Alex, that is on you as well. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. Go. You got your drum. Perfect.
No, perfect. Stay there.